Hey, it's Josephine from the Pointe shop. I'm at Ballet West Academy today, and I'm fitting a few dancers in their very first pair of pointe shoes. And this is Daniela, and she's getting fitted for her first pair, and she has very pretty feet, but I wanted to point out a couple different things that we want to make sure to look out for when we're fitting for their first pair of pointe shoes. Okay, so I want you to just take your feet out of your tights. Very good. So the first thing that I look at is the foot shape, of course, because we don't have a reference just yet. So that's the first thing that I look at. And for Daniela, her toes are actually a little bit longer in proportion to the rest of her foot. So she has longer toes, and the first few toes are actually the same length, which is a good sign. But because her toes are so long, she has a tendency to collapse inside of her pointe shoes, or just in general, because I can see that there's already a little knuckling happening whenever she's wearing her regular shoes, because she has a little bit of red on the top of her knuckles, and that shows me that she's more prone to collapse. So you want to make sure that you're working out your toes just as much as you're working out the rest of your feet. So that's something that we're going to be working on with Daniela. Okay, can you take your other foot out as well? And then the second thing that I notice is that she's actually quite shallow, so her foot doesn't have a lot of fat on the top of her foot. So I want to make sure that she's wearing a pointe shoe that is flat enough so that she doesn't have a lot of space between the shoe and her foot. Can you stand up for me? So you can kind of see how her foot is shaped right here. It's very, very shallow. Her toes are a little bit longer in comparison to the rest of her foot. Demi-plie. And she has amazing turnout. I just wanted to show you that part. Straighten. Okay, very good. So we wanted to keep those two things in mind, long toes and shallow feet. And can you tendu towards me? Very nice. Okay, so she has pretty great ankles and feet, first position. And then tendu your other foot for me. So she is probably not going to have any trouble getting over on her pointe shoes. So for her first pair, I'm really just trying to get her over on her pointe shoes and to make sure that she's able to roll through, because they don't weigh very much when they're first going on pointe because they're quite young. And I just want to be able to get her a shoe that you can put some weight on her pointe shoes. Okay, baby, have a seat for me. So we're going to start out with pretty minimal amount of toe pads. So we're going to put these on. Just very standard. I'm not putting any spacers on her. I'm not putting anything else on her feet right now, because I want to start out with the least amount of padding possible. And if you start to feel a lot of pain, then I'll start adding a little bit more at a time. But generally speaking, we want as little as possible. So I'm generally just working with pretty soft shoes at this point, because they're going to be just at the bar for a while. Can you stand up for me? Okay, first position, come a little bit closer. So you can see that this shoe is a little bit more domey. It's like a little bit wider, or not wider, but it's a little bit higher profile like this. So you can kind of see that there's a little bit of gaping right here. This is actually a Freed of London, and a lot of their shoes are made on a rounder last. So most ballerinas that are in Freed of London, they squash it down anyway. So that's why you see this gap right here. But we don't want to start out like this for dancers that are in training, because I'm not going to have her squash her shoes like a lot of professionals do. Bring your left foot up on pointe, and then press up on both feet. Very nice. So you can see that she's bending her shoes. It looks really, really nice. And when you're up on pointe, I can't really see any of the gaping anymore, so that's really pretty. Can you cross it into fifth position? Very good. So this is option number one. This looks pretty good. The only thing is that it's a little bit domey, and I want to make sure that everything is fitted nice and streamlined. Okay? Go ahead and take those off for me. Beautiful feet. And then we're going to try on option number two. And I'm going to tell you what the difference is. Very good. Okay, stand up for me. Obviously, you can go to a lot of different directions with Daniela, because she has pretty feet, good technique, great turnout, straight knees, all of those things. She's open to a lot of different types of pointe shoes, but I want to make sure that I pick the shoe that she's going to improve the fastest in. Bring the left shoe up on pointe, and then press up on both feet. So to me, this shoe looks a lot more sturdy. Cross it into fifth position. So they both look good, slightly better aligned for her ankles. Can you cross it in, can you go into parallel? Very good. So a lot of shoes look really great, but I'll show you what the difference are. She's pretty flat on her pointe shoes. She's very well grounded. A lot of dancers, because they don't weigh a lot, they're floating in their pointe shoes and they don't know how to put weight on their pointe shoes yet, so they're kind of floating around. So this shoe is slightly rounder right here. So when she goes up on pointe, she slightly rolls around on the platform. This one's incredibly solid. For her first pair, this is probably the direction that we want to go because she feels very well aligned. Sometimes I will give her a shoe, or not just Daniela, but sometimes I will give a dancer a shoe that's a little bit difficult to balance, just because I want them to gain a little bit more strength in their abs and make sure that they are supporting themselves rather than the shoe supporting them. But for her first pair of pointe shoes, I think alignment is going to be really important for Daniela, so this is what we're going to do. Back out to first position. Very nice. So this is very solid, very straight, really stable. So this is the direction we're going to go this time around. But this is a pretty good option too. So I'm going to keep this one in my notes for her. And this is probably going to be her shoe within the next couple of years or so. So I think this is what we're going to do for her very first pair of pointe shoes. Every dancer requires a different thing for their first pair of pointe shoes. So don't take this as a rule, but this is just one of the options for you guys. So if you have any questions about your pointe shoes, you can leave that on the comments. I will do my best to address that in the next video. You can come down now, Daniela. And if you guys are around Salt Lake City, I'm around this city around 4 times a year, so you can always look at where I'm fitting in my tour, and I will link that on the bottom as well. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time.